In the know, nonstop Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com. Purple Daily, presented by Surly Brewing Company.
Actually, it's Purple Access. It's Zolgad. It's executive producer Declan Goff and the man in his Vols gear, Star Tribune sports columnist Chip Scoggins. All right, before we start, give your spiel. It's been a long time. Your program was down, embarrassing itself. Rocky Top not being sung at your home. How good is it to have a football program that's back where you expect it?
This is how life should be, right? You wear the orange with pride. I've worn this every day this week. I'm not embarrassed to admit that.
I don't blame you.
It's not going to get washed. It certainly won't get washed if we beat Alabama because I'll wear it every day from then on. No, this is if I've been saying this, telling this people this week, I'm trying to educate them. If you're from Tennessee or Alabama and you say the third Saturday in October, you know what it is, right? That's traditionally every year, third Saturday in October, this is a game. You don't get married on the third Saturday in October. It's best if you don't die on the third Saturday in October.
Okay.
You don't do anything. Third Saturday in October is Alabama game. And finally, it feels like a big event again, not just we're going to be roadkill. So I'm excited. I'll be texting and tweeting a lot probably Saturday. Not so if we're winning, if we're losing.
You'll disappear.
Your sponsor will help me make it through the
Surly
day.
Brewing will come through for you.
Yes.
Are you going to be rocking that gear or the actual Peyton Manning jersey that you have owned for years now on Saturday?
No, it's definitely the Manning jersey. This is the lead up. Saturday is for Manning jersey. I don't care. Yeah. Mark Craig tells me I'm too old to wear it. I'm wearing it.
If they win, will you wear it on the show next week?
Yes. I'll wear it.
Can we get you in the Peyton jersey if they win, if they beat Nick Saban?
100% yes. I'll wear that thing with pride on this show.
Awesome stuff. All right, let's get to the Vikings conversation. First off, your thoughts on what we saw against the Bears Sunday. A 21-point onslaught, 18-point lead. Looked like it was going to be an absolute gong show for the Bears. And then they came back, took a lead. The Vikings, again, third consecutive week, Kirk Cousins, fourth quarter, game-winning drive. But your thoughts on what was a very weird football game.
Well, I've been trying to think about this Vikings team and their games and trying to put it in perspective or put it in the right context. Uh-huh. It's hard because they're 4-1, right? I mean, this town should be celebrating. And it's, you want to ding them for not putting their foot on the gas and letting, having those lulls where teams get back in them. But then you watch the NFL.
Yes.
And this is what teams do. There's no, I mean, it's never perfect. And there's only a couple teams that you think can just, not play flawlessly, but turn it on and off when they want. So there's going to be times where they look bad, but I think the takeaway has to be that they're still obviously a work in progress, but they're 4-1. They're winning these games. So I think that's, if you want to be the optimist in this, is that we'd feel a hell of a lot different if we were sitting here, if they're 1-4 and losing these games. We'd be talking about, oh my God, this is no different than Zimmer and O'Connell's, this team's. No, I mean, they're finding ways to win when they're not at their best. And so I think that's encouraging. Is that the right word? I don't know.
I think so. Yeah. And my thing too is this. A year from now, my expectations will have changed. But,
yes.
Chip, to be fair, it's not like I thought that this team was going to be great. Their schedule is conducive to wins. I get that. And so this start does not shock me, but it's also, I didn't know exactly what to expect. So this is not a team or a year where I think people should be as invested of, okay, they're 4-1, they're going to the Super Bowl, right? It's all, to me, it's a pleasant surprise. A year from now, the expectations fairly get raised. So the way I see this is 4-1, fun start, Certainly, without question, a breath of fresh air. But it's not like I was holding their feet to the collective fire of you better be 4-1.
No. I mean, I guess I didn't go game by game to think, but we thought if they get past those first 2 games in relatively good shape, they have a chance to get on a pretty good roll to start the season.
Yeah.
But it's think about their defense, right? They had one of the worst defenses in the NFL last year. They changed some of the personnel and they got Daniil back, changed the schemes, but do we think they're automatically going to become a top 10 defense? No, I mean, we thought they'd be improved, but I still thought that there was major questions, and those are showing. We said at the beginning of the year that let's see what this offense looks like at the end of the year and how different it is from the beginning, because it's not going to be a well-oiled machine from day one, and I think we're seeing that. But I'll tell you, like, to me, why this feels different and why I think there's reason to feel good about where they're going. Mm-hmm. Cousins makes a horrible interception. Horrible. And Judd, what have we said all along? Be more aggressive, Kirk, and live with the results. If you throw an interception, guess what he did? He tried to be more aggressive. Instead of taking the check down, he threw an interception. But he came back and led a 17-play drive. I mean, if you have a 17-play drive in the NFL, I don't care if it's against the Bears or whoever.
Right.
That's impressive to win a game. Yeah. And so Cousins didn't go into a shell. He didn't let it rattle him. He made a number of big-time plays on that game-winning drive. And so that, to me, is a sign of progress. Like, maybe something that O'Connell's doing is helping him kind of forget about mistakes.
O'Connell there is no question in my mind. And this is a credit to Kirk, okay? So Kirk's playing well. I know his stats are down, but I don't care. I will continue not to care about that. But Kevin O'Connell, both, I think, through schematics and just simply empowering and encouraging Kirk, I'm with you completely. Because that pick previously, Kirk falls apart. He just falls apart. And he 1,000% did not. I don't care what his stats are. I care how he operates at key times. And I am with you completely. When he comes back and leads a 17-play drive on which they look damn good and convert, 3 or 4 third downs?
Yeah.
Full credit there. Full credit.
Yeah, and it's as bad as that, it's interesting how he talked about that interception that he thought about previous. And I think Seifert wrote about this, like maybe he was thinking about that Saints game, where he checked it down and they had to drop pass where he had Thielen. Mm-hmm. And so he tried to be more aggressive this time. And, he went to Thielen and the guy picked him off. It's like, learning time there, but I hope it doesn't dissuade him from doing that again and just being a little bit better in that situation, because I like the fact that it's okay for him to make mistakes if he's being aggressive. Right. Because you're not going to make your coach angry. He's not going to pout like we saw with Zimmer. Sorry, we're going to run the ball now, 25 straight. I mean, I feel like this is I feel like that was a key thing, what happened Sunday with that interception and the way he came back for the rest of this season and how Cousins is going to handle situations.
Yep, and I also like this about that side of the ball, Chipper. I like the fact that we are clearly on a game-by-game basis seeing more. Yeah. I love the fact, so I did not see this a lot until the Bears game, but I love the fact that they opened the game at pace, right? So they're going in what looks like a hurry-up scheme, but it's not. Kirk gets to the line of scrimmage, diagnoses what he's seeing, and then calls a play. That's what I expected. And so I really think, and that the team's not going to talk about this a ton, but I really like the fact that week by week by week, we are seeing more of what we expected from O'Connell installed, and that Kirk is being empowered again to play a very important big role in that.
Well, didn't Cousins say on the quarterback sneak at the end that on that drive that he had a couple options there to do?
Yes.
I mean, so would that have happened under the previous regime, or would it have just said this is the play? And I don't know. Maybe.
I think you're right about that. I think they would have sent in a play.
Yeah, but they gave you said the right word, empowerment. I mean, you can tell that O'Connell is totally empowering Cousins for him to take over this offense, and new wrinkles too. Like, didn't it feel like during that game, I turned to Jim Suhan next to me, and I said, is Mattison playing more than he normally does? Does it feel like he's playing more? It felt like there was an absolute definite plan.
He was.
And not just, okay, go in there and spell Dalvin for, a couple plays to give him. I mean, they clearly are using him in that third down role, passing, and I like that. I thought Dalvin was fresher. He looked like for the first time kind of had that burst back. Maybe I just,
a little bit more, yeah.
Maybe I just opted. He just seemed like he was closer to breaking like we've seen.
Yep.
Those big runs. But I think you saw that. Obviously you're seeing the wrinkles with the Jefferson pass and the old flea flicker check down for 2 yards, which is
damnedest play.
Maybe they shouldn't run that one again. But no, I think you're seeing. I think, and that's the thing, Judd. Don't you get the sense that each week there's going to be a new wrinkle, a new formation, a new something that they're adding to it?
Because the comfort's there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like with Kirk. I mean, what Kirk said in the springtime is true, which is this is a lot to learn. This is tough, and that's why I think week by week, you're seeing in game where he and probably the rest of the offense as well is more comfortable. And so, we're starting to see, and it's not just trick plays, it's actual implementation of the scheme itself that they probably didn't feel comfortable in weeks 1, 2, or 3 to unveil yet as much.
And the other thing part that too is, what was it, the Philadelphia game and the one after that where Jefferson didn't really get a lot of targets, and because he was getting doubled and grabbed and harassed, and what did we say at the time? It's up to O'Connell now to adjust. He's got to figure out ways, and we're seeing that. It is deliberate and intentional what they're doing early in the games to get him going. And I asked Jefferson about this the other day. Why on earth, if you're a defense, would you give him a free run off the line and not try to disrupt him? I mean, if he gets a free release, you're dead, right?
Because they're afraid. They're afraid he'll beat the defender, flat out beat him.
I know, but it's like, if you're just gonna let him run free off the line and find his space. I mean, I don't know. I guess there's not good options, when you're trying to defend him, but it just seemed like the Bears, whatever they were doing, is like it was just like pitch and catch.
How is a team that is coached by a guy who was a defensive coordinator with the Colts? How on earth do you come out with that game plan and literally at halftime have to adjust it? Because rightfully so, you're getting your ass kicked by Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, it reminded me of the Packers, how easy it looked. I mean, he just ran and got open, and Cousins threw him the ball. I mean, when a quarterback can complete 17 straight passes to start a game, your game plan is awful. I mean, no discredit to Cousins. I mean, he had to make the throws, but some of those just looked like, as Mark Craig said, looked like they were playing 7-on-7. You know?
Yep. Yeah, and in fact, I think it was Seifert had a ESPN stats and info tweet that none of those throws was into a quote unquote tight window, which I believe is a defender being a yard from you. Yeah. 0 of those throws, like as Kirk said post game, they weren't hard throws, and Kirk said that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think Seifert said, I believe it was of his 40, is it 43 attempts, right? Is that what he had? Of his 43.
That's what it is, 43.
41 attempts. Of his 41 attempps, none were into a tight window.
That's incredible.
It's incredible. Yeah, it's amazing that's true. And then you watch that first half, and then I do think that game pivoted with the special teams miscues. I mean, that threw open the door for the Bears. And I thought Fields, when he started making some plays with his legs, and he made some some good throws, and his receivers helped him out. But he played a lot better in that second half, so it got closer than what I thought it was going to be.
All right, defensive side of the ball, which by the way is giving up, I think, approximately 20 points per game, so it's not a disaster. Okay. Mm-hmm. But when you watch this team, which we do on a week by week basis, what's your faith there right now? Because I feel like the offense is ascending. Like I see what they're doing, and I'm like, I like that. And it's not perfect all the time, but I like where it's going. Defensively, I'd be hard pressed to tell you that I am enthusiastic or optimistic.
Yeah, it just feels like they're susceptible. right? Susceptible to big plays in the pass. It just seems like these offenses know how to attack them and where the soft coverages are, and they're able to do it. And I don't know how much more you can just say, well, it's a new scheme and they're getting used to it, or is it personnel? That's
right.
I'm you're right. They're not giving that dancer play is kind of indicative of, right? It starts off, he gets knocked to the ground, but he gets up and he makes a great play to strip it. I mean, it's like, so there's it's just a mixture of good and bad right now. And they've made, some plays when they needed to, but it also feels like they're susceptible against the pass and some of the weaknesses in that pass defense that teams are able to exploit.
Here's what I don't see, and I might be completely wrong here, but from watching the games, what I don't see too are adjustments. Like if your personnel's not going to fit, your scheme, right? You have to adjust some things. Like you have to find ways to get more pressure. And it feels like Donatel is not doing that. And at some point in time, and Chipper, we have seen this, especially from older, stubborn coaches, right? My system works. Okay, that's great. That's fantastic. But you've got to change something here. You can't just bang your head against the wall with what potentially looks like a good team and say, you know what, Kevin O'Connell, this is eventually going to work, because we don't know when eventually is. Yeah. And I don't see enough willingness to change things to, at least for the time being, make up for the deficiencies.
And that's where I think Donatel is going to err on the side of, this is part of the process. These guys, a new system. They're going to get used to it. And I can buy that argument somewhat, but I agree with you that, you do have to change it up too if it's not working immediately. And there was that pass. I can't. It was to the tight end commit over the middle. Mm-hmm. The key third down. It was coming the direction. So it was, I think it's third quarter, and Danielle Hunter dropped into coverage and he threw up over his head in between him and Harrison Smith. I'm like, I love creativity, but on third and long or whatever that was, I'd rather have Danielle Hunter rushing the quarterback than drop it into, I mean, that's the kind of stuff I was just like, oh my gosh, you got this, guy with a track record of being a great pass rusher. And I know the stats aren't there this year, but I just trust Danielle Hunter rushing the passer more than I do dropping into coverage, So it's stuff like that. It's just like, and that was a key. I can't remember if they scored on a touchdown or a field goal on that drive, but it's just like, man, that was a big play. Right. So it's stuff like that I just feels like it's not all the way there yet, either personnel or scheme.
Yeah, and I guess my question off of that too is, why would you allow Jared Goff, Dalton, Fields to be comfortable? Like, make them uncomfortable. Because Dalton's old, Goff is not exactly a mobile quarterback, and Fields is a guy I think that if you get pressure is going to panic, right?
Yeah.
It's one thing to be facing Joe Burrow or something and be like, okay, this might be difficult. But that's three QBs right there who I want to get after and cause them problems. And it feels like the Vikings are saying, oh, no, our scheme doesn't work that way. And it's like, maybe it should work a little bit more that way, Ed, than you currently think.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I know you had to be cautious of Field taking off and running, and he did a couple nice jobs with that. But we saw in the first half, I mean, he was erratic throwing the ball. And so if you could, get pressure on him without letting him break contain and getting first downs, I just felt like he was going to continue to misfire. But that's it. It's like the pressure is just not. We're seeing these quarterbacks look comfortable.
That's what I'm saying.
Justin Fields in that second half looked comfortable running against
yes.
And that's whereas he hasn't. I mean, you see the talk out of Chicago this week is like, man, he made huge strides. It's like, well, that's not really what you want the week after he plays your defense.
And did he, or did your defense just not really approach him correct?
Perspective, it depends on what perspective you have.
Right.
Chicago's probably saying yes, but I think the Vikings allowed him to do that. Without they didn't have the the plan of attack like you thought they might.
It feels like it's ripe for bye week adjustments. When O'Connell has time then with no game on Sunday to sort of sit down with Ed and be like, Ed, I know the Fangio system, but it seems like there's more that we can do. And I mean, you could very well be going into the bye week 5-1. So you're in great shape. It would be a shame. It would be a shame if at the end of the day, though, your defense cost you because you refused to change things up, or at least say, okay, our personnel and this scheme aren't a perfect match, so let's do X, Y, and Z to get through this time period.
That's what you wonder is privately, are they saying, we trust the scheme, we love the scheme's going to work, but because we've only been here, 7 months, the personnel doesn't match it, and it's going to take a couple of, off seasons to get it. I don't know, but I do think you can still adjust within that. Like, even if the personnel doesn't fit your scheme 100% like you want, you still can adjust to make it, so that you're getting the strengths, of your players, or you're getting more pass rush. Like, if Donatello doesn't want to blitz and they're not getting any, and these quarterbacks are getting comfortable, then you got to figure out a way to generate some pressure. So, but again, much like the offense, Judd, I mean, that's what this season's all about, right?
Right.
Work in progress.
I would just like to see more. I would just like to see more progress, because I feel like offensively we are. Like,
you're seeing it. Yeah.
I have no complaints there. It's not perfect, but I get that. The defense feels a little bit like it's rooted in this. No, this is going to work.
It's flexible, yeah.
And that goes back to Childress in 06, and I hate that. This is my system. The Fangio system works. It's like, okay, yeah, but you got to do some things. I mean, O'Connell, to me, seems very adaptable. I really think that he is probably installed and right now is actively running way more of the Kubiak scheme in some ways than he probably planned, because that helps Kirk.
It helps Kirk, yeah.
I admire him for that.
Yeah, I think he's talking about O'Connell. I think he's very flexible with within his system and figuring out what guys can do well. And because we're seeing these adjustments week by week from him. I mean, we just are. I mean, if you watch it, like there's different ways they're going about things. So I give him credit for that. And again, to be able to do that and still find a way to win close games, which this team had something inherently wrong with it last year that couldn't do it.
Yep.
That's a skill in the NFL that the playoff teams figure out. Yes. And the non-playoff teams don't, because every one of these games is close, and you have to be able to figure out how to win them at the end.
And they're not pretty, and they're certainly not great. And you know what? At the end of the day, you just don't care anymore.
Do you think we fall in love with style points in the NFL, in college?
I think we fall in love with them when we see them. And the problem is we see them on highlights, but I don't think that they truly exist that much. So yes, but the problem is if you're going to watch an entire game, Chipper, you're going to see the warts. You're going to see the jock itch, the athlete's foot. You're going to see all of the problems play out, and it's ugly, and that's why you take your wins.
That was descriptive.
Well, I mean, you do. There's so many warts.
But that's what, like Tom Brady, he was 100% honest. He's like, when someone asked him about, boy, there's a lot of parity in the NFL, he's like, oh, there's a lot of bad football. That's Correct. What I see. I'm seeing a lot of terrible football, and it's like, that's what this is. It's like you have to be able to win terrible football sometimes and be able to rise above it.
How long have we both said that, though? Like, parody, it's parody, it's parody. No, it's parody because you watch Red Zone, which I love, but they show you the highlights. They show you look at all. I mean, if you go to that Giants-Packers game was a stinker.
So you think Red Zone has created this false reality of style points in the NFL because you're seeing great plays. And you missed the 90% of the rest of the game. There's 2-yard runs that go nowhere.
Red Zone is the National Football League's beauty pageant.
Yeah.
Everyone's, look at this, look at that, it's great. And then
it looks good on Red Zone, don't they?
Yeah, exactly right. And then you watch a game. That's why the standalone games are actually like the worst thing in some ways. Yeah. I mean, that Thursday night game that you were tweeting about watching was awful. Russell Wilson looks awful. That game was terrible.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, but that is the NFL, and the best teams realize that.
Yes.
We hear it all the time. Situational football. It's not a cliche. I mean, you got to figure out how to win in those situations and make the one play that you need.
Yep. But that's why you're right. The real, I guess, if you want to call it this momentum swing on Sunday against the Bears was the special teams. Because if Greg Joseph makes those, that's 6 points right there. Like if exactly.
You had the 15-yard punt and the penalty on that. They gave him the ball to 50 right before halftime, and they scored touchdowns. Like now, you're like, this game's gonna be closer than it should. That's If you have a normal punt there and you don't have the penalty, is Chicago going to come down and score a touchdown right before halftime? Probably not.
Last thing for you. The last time that the Vikings had not just a good, but I feel like it was a fortuitous, the breaks went your way season, 2017. Like they played well. Case was on the magic carpet ride, but there were a lot of things that just went your way. And you need that, okay? When Skylar Thompson is going to start for the Miami Dolphins on Sunday. So no Tua. Okay, it's Teddy. No Teddy. It is a kid who is a 7th round pick who has no business starting. Okay. This is just to be clear. This is not a criticism of the Vikings, but it is, you need some weird breaks. You need some good karma. This is shaping up, Mr. Scoggins, to be the 180 of 2022 or 21. Yeah. This is shaping up to be the karma is going your way.
Joe, when we were in the press box the other day and saw that Teddy went out and looked like it's going to be concussion, and this Skylar, whatever,
Skylar Thompson, Kansas State, right?
Yeah. We all said it's going to be one of those years, huh?
Yep.
Where
Love it.
Just it lines up, and here's what you have to do. You have to take advantage of these. I mean, that is it. I mean, it is weird how some years it just things line. I go back to I'll give you a college reference. Last year, Iowa Hawkeyes, you watched them, they looked so pedestrian. They won 10 games and won the West because they got a bunch of turnovers and breaks with their way. And we always said in the NFL, it's not so much who you play, but when you play them.
Yep.
Because are you beat up or you're not beat up? And this week, if you'd have told me that Tua's playing and they're going down to Miami, I would say, it's a loss. Now you're thinking, well, okay, you should go down there and win that game.
It was a loss.
I mean, as you know in the NFL, there's no sure things, but you have to take advantage when it lines up for you, and this is one of those situations where it does.
Yep, and this all starts. Call me crazy, although I think you will agree. This all starts every year in training camp. If you have a training camp that has problems, if you have a training camp that has controversy, you are often destined to a weird year. But think about how calm 100%. Things were. O'Connell kept everything, and I credit him. O'Connell kept everything calm, and there was nothing like, oh my God, that's a problem. He even did a really good job with what I would call a few hiccups. That's where it starts. You lay the groundwork for how calm can you keep training camp, and they did a great job and sort of just eased in.
Well, how many times have we go through the history list where you have a chaotic, eventful, drama-filled training camp? How often does the water faucet turn off then once the regular season starts? It doesn't. It just continues on. It sets the tone for a weird year coming down the path. And so I think it's right. Like, that was camp smooth sailing for the Vikings pretty much. There was just kind of boring, uneventful.
Which is perfect for a
coach. What you want. Yeah. And so, but yeah, it does feel like, for whatever reason, some years it just lines up for teams with the breaks or karma, whatever,
Right.
But again, I go back to the teams that take advantage of those are the ones that, you see.
And you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. You have to grab that. You can't be like, oh yeah, we'll have luck next year. You have no idea.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a great point. All right, sir. Your prediction, Vols, Bama on Saturday. Let's hear it.
27-24, Rocky Top.
Oh, sing it, baby.
Oh, wow.
Sing it. Sing Rocky Top.
I got to get my phone out and play it for you. Once two strangers climbed a rocky top looking for a moonshine still. Strangers ain't come down from rocky top, reckon they never will. Corn don't grow at all on top of dirt.
Keep going.